Hello, everyone. This is Randy Kirk, and there's a tremendous amount of confusion about just how many cars Tesla will make next year. I have a very strong opinion on this after doing pretty deep analysis and evaluation of the words of Elon Musk, the words of those other executives at Tesla, the information that we have about levels of production at this exact moment, and just what happened in Q4. I put this all together. I have made my statements very, very clearly, and there are some who think that I'm just an UberBull. Say that 3 times fast. So let's talk about them. My number ranges from a worst case, I can't figure out how it could be any less than 2.3 million, to a probable case at around 2.5 million, and a super, like everything goes perfectly next year, 2.65. I mean, we deserve a year like that, right? We've had 3 or 4 years in a row of so much weirdness and things taking place that nobody could have predicted. So if there's an absolutely perfect year, I think that they could build and ship 2.65. Now, let's keep in mind, there is capacity. Then there is how many can be built, how many are built out of that capacity. And then the third question is, how many are sold, even if they all get made? Or does Tesla slow down production because there's some problem with the amount of sales that they can generate? So we're going to talk about those 3 things. I'm going to go into the full look here. I know some of you probably saying, Randy, you already did this. Well, I'm going to try to do it maybe just a little more clearly, because some people are still confused. And I want to put it out there. Comment below, DM me on Twitter, contact me any way that you can think of. My email is pretty well out there everywhere. Let's talk about it. Come on the show. If you think that my numbers are just crazy, or you think that they're not too bad, but maybe it's just still a little bit too bullish. Now, look, I'm an optimist. Let's get that out of the way. I'm always going to be bullish. I'm always going to be optimistic, but I've really, really tried to look for every way that this could be less than 2.3 million. I can't find it. So a lot of folks out there at 1.92 million, I don't know how they can even imagine that that's going to be the number for next year. So really, seriously, I'm looking to have a challenger come on and show me where I messed up on this. I just can't figure it out. So let's start. Let's start with the most obvious data point that we have. Tesla in the Q4 just built 440,000 cars. So if you built 440,000 cars in the Q4 and you don't do anything differently, you don't ramp anything anywhere, then you multiply that out and you're going to get to 1.9, just short of 1.9 million. So that would be, so the people that are saying 1.9 million, I'm like, how do you come to 1.9 million? You're assuming that Tesla can't sell what they're currently making, and or you're suggesting they're not going to make any more, even if they have problems selling them, and that they're just going to be stuck at this number for all of 2023. Now, I'm not going to repeat all of my arguments about how easy it's going to be for Tesla to sell all the cars they make. Well, maybe I will. We'll see. I'll decide later as we're doing this. Okay, so 440,000. That'd be 1.86. I think of it just in the multiplication run, or maybe it's 1.76. Anyway, so somewhere around 1.8, 1.9 million, just if they don't do anything at all to increase the production next year. All right. Now I like to break it down by factory, not by model number. So I'm going to break it down by factory. Currently, the capacity of Fremont is somewhere around 600,000. The word on the street is that they brought in the folks from China to come over and take a look and see what kind of things that they could do to increase production in Fremont. So I'm sticking at 600,000. The best case example would be 700,000. I have a few people that are thinking they could beat 700,000. I think that would really be a fantastic feat for next year, and maybe they will. But I'm sticking with my base number of 600,000 out of Fremont. That'll be a few more than they made last year, not a significant increase. Yes, things can happen. More disease, more war, more part shortages, all kinds of things could happen, but that is their capacity, at least 600,000. And I'm saying that they do hit capacity and sell everything they can make out of Fremont next year. That takes us to Austin. So with regard to Austin, Elon Musk has stated that they will be at 75,000 in the first quarter. I'm going off of Elon's statement. I don't think he just pulled that out of his hat, grabbed it out of thin air. I think that he really believes that they're going to make 75,000 in Austin. And by the way, we can kind of run these two together. Same thing for Berlin, that Berlin, may be a week or two behind, but roughly speaking, the two companies will make 75,000 in the first quarter. So that would be another exactly 300,000 if they never increased it over the 75,000 in quarter 2, 3, or 4. I find that to be an absurd idea. The Model Y is now the best-selling car in multiple places around the world. It just became the #1 best-selling luxury car in America, #1 best-selling car in Germany. I mean, just you go down the list. Australia, I think, #1 best-selling car. So it's hard for me to imagine that Tesla is going to have any trouble selling Model Ys, and or that they would not continue to ramp all next year, because that factory capacity is at least 500,000. That's phase 1. And many people that I trust are guessing that they'll just keep going from 500,000 and go up from there. I would anticipate that they would be at a 500,000 run rate by the end of the year. They're going to be at a 300,000 run rate at the beginning of the year. That might mean they get to 400,000 during the course of the year, maybe more. I'm sticking with my number of 350,000 out of Austin. Same thing for Berlin. So that would be 700,000 to go along with the 600,000 for a total of 1.3 so far. And we're only talking about the US and Berlin. We haven't talked about Shanghai. So 1.3 out of those two locations. These two other vehicles that are going to be made in the United States. One of those is the semi-truck. Elon Musk has made the statement that he's going to make 50,000 semi-trucks in 2024. He's not given us a number for 2023. So, but in order to get to 50,000 semi-trucks in 2024, he's going to have to be well along to that number by the end of 2023. So what is the number? How close will he be at the end of 2023 in order to get to 50,000 in 2024? Let's take an endpoint. In order to do 50,000 total, you're going to have to be running beyond 50,000 by the end of the year. So let's say it's 70,000 semi-trucks that they're making by the end of the year. Run rate, okay, the run rate. Well, that probably means you're going to have to be at 30,000 run rate by the beginning of the year, by the beginning of 2024. So if you start now at pretty close to 0, and you've got to be at 30,000 or so by the end of the year, then over the course of the year, you're going to be ramping, and I don't think you need to go into the minute details, but just in general, I think you're going to have to make between 50 and 25,000 semi-trucks during this year in order to make the number in 2024. Now, I don't think that Elon just kind of went, oh, I think we'll make that many. I'm sure they've had meetings, they've had decisions, they've decided how many lines they need or how the lines will operate, where the lines will operate. None of that's become public yet, so nobody knows. I don't know. Nobody on Twitter or YouTube or any place else that claims that they know, unless they've gotten brand new information from some insider or they've gotten a statement from somebody at the executive level. We don't know whether they've got a line making these now, or whether they're still hand building, or when the line is supposed to start. But I'm just going off of Elon's statement, which has to be based on some kind of reality of 50,000 next year. So take your number, 15, 20, 25, but then multiply it by 6 to get a proper analysis of how that impacts Tesla's auto and truck business, because it's 6 times as much profit as a Model 3. And, that's a whole other story, but just multiply by 6 and you get some kind of an idea. So it's going to be the equivalent of, let's say, 90,000, 100,000 cars, maybe more. So that's with the semi-truck. Now we've got the Cybertruck. With the Cybertruck, we know that production is going to start in the midsummer, or maybe early summer. We're not exactly sure. Sometime this year, they're going to start with the Cybertruck. I think that's going to be a relatively easier ramp, but let's not assume that. Let's just assume it'll ramp like any other car that they've done so far. The reason I say it might be easier is because the exoskeleton and all of the latest things that they're doing in terms of the methodologies for manufacturing will all be in place. And I think it'll be an easier ramp, but let's say not. So there's going to be a ramp, and maybe that ramp is going to get us, again, pretty much like the semi-truck, might be 15, might be 20, might be 25,000 by the end of the year total units. So there's another 25,000. So put those two together. Let's count it as 50,000 total. I don't, forget the multiplying times 6, but let's say roughly 50,000 total for the purposes of this analysis. Okay, now we go over to Shanghai. Shanghai has to be very, very close to a run rate of 1.2 million. But let's take that they're currently only at a run rate of 1 million. Are you okay with that? So the run rate is 1 million now. Is that going to be stagnant for the year? Or is Shanghai going to just slow down production and go, we can't sell them all, so let's slow it down. Now we know that there's a Chinese New Year in January, so they won't make quite as many in January. And who knows, there could be other times when they take it down for a week or whatever. But there's absolutely no doubt that Shanghai is planning for expansion of production. We have that from so many different sources at this point. It seems impossible to think that there's not going to be expanding capacity out of Shanghai this year. And with another rumored amount where the run rate is already at about 1 million, 1.2 million. I'm just going to go with 1.1 million for next year. So if you take what we've already talked about, we've got the 700,000 from the Berlin and Austin together. We've got 600,000 from Fremont. That's 1.3. Add 1.1 from Shanghai. You're at 2.4, and then at 50,000 in Cybertrucks and semi-trucks, you're at 2.45. That's kind of okay, that makes sense to me. That's probably the right number. So I say 2.5. But how do you get down to 2.3 as my minimum? So that would be, the war causes some kind of part shortage. Shanghai does something crazy, China does something crazy, and they can't do this or that or the other. Some market doesn't develop at the rate that we hope it's going to develop. Elon isn't able to figure out how to lower the price enough to sell everything he can possibly make, which he has stated his intention is to sell everything he can possibly make, even if he has to lose money in 2023. So how do you get below 2? So I'm saying, okay, take off 150,000 from the number that I'm talking about, and you get down to 2.3 million. How do you get lower than that? So that's what I'm looking for in the comments. How do you get lower than that? Maybe you'd like to talk about it more on our Patreon, because we're already starting these conversations on Patreon about the future of Tesla, about the future of the world. Join Patreon in order to participate. I really am looking for participation on this Patreon group that we're putting together, not just folks that want to come in and see early videos. So please come on board and do that. Like and subscribe. If you'd like to see more commentary like this, I'm going to start a new series I think you're really going to like. We've got some amazing interviews coming up. We have the part 2 interview, I think maybe tomorrow morning with Brian Wang. People loved part 1 of that video. We probably had the highest ratio of likes of anything that I've done so far. So if you haven't seen that video yet, please go back and see the Brian Wang video. And then part 2 coming out tomorrow, talking about the singularity, talking about the future of how the world is going to be as we move into a fully electric economy and other elements like that. So listen, it's been great talking to you today.